Well, good morning or good afternoon, wherever we might be finding you. We're very pleased to welcome you to the release of the second edition of the Rural Economic Development Toolkit from the Outdoor Recreation Roundtable. Before I begin, for those requiring closed captionings, you can enable captions by going to the bottom of your Zoom screen and pressing Captions and then Show Captions. My name is Chris Perkins, and I'm the Vice President of Programs for the Outdoor Recreation Roundtable, or ORR. ORR is the nation's leading coalition of outdoor recreation associations, representing the more than 110,000 outdoor businesses in the recreation economy and the full spectrum of outdoor-related activities. So in the logos you see here, you'll see skiing, biking, hiking, climbing, hunting, fishing, RVing, camping, motorized, hospitality, horseback riding, scuba diving, you name it. We pull the entire trillion-dollar outdoor recreation economy under one roof and work to share the benefits of outdoor recreation to the American economy and our society. And those of you who've seen me present before know that I like to start with the news. And if you, like me, have been following the news related to outdoor recreation over the past few years, you know that something is different now than it was before. Across the country, in geographies of all sizes, leaders of a variety of backgrounds across the political spectrum are investing in outdoor recreation infrastructure and access like never before to bring benefits to their communities. But what these headlines don't show is the amount of work on the ground from communities and leaders to build momentum for outdoor recreation as an economic development strategy, or the hours spent understanding community needs and crafting plans to help elevate outdoor recreation as part of their future, and so much more. And this is why we're so excited to be here today to update our Rural Economic Development Toolkit, first published in 2021, with a second edition to support communities of all types around the United States to understand this opportunity and how best to take advantage of it. Today, I'll speak for about 20 minutes on the new content, and then we'll be joined by 4 outstanding community leaders from around the United States. Enos, founder and CEO from the Pennsylvania Wild Center for Entrepreneurship. Stephanie Swepson-Twitty, President and CEO of the Eagle Market Streets Development Corporation in Old Fort, North Carolina. Lilly, Manager of Outdoor Community Development at the West Virginia University Outdoor Recreation Economic Development Collaborative in Beckley, West Virginia. And Jesse Powers, Executive Director of the Outdoor Recreation Council of Appalachia in Athens County, Ohio. We'll dig into the toolkit in a moment, but before I do, I want to recognize a couple organizations who helped make this second edition possible. First is the Richard King Mellon Foundation, who's supported ORR's rural economic development research and helped us provide grants to 5 rural communities around the country in 2023 to help bring their plans to life. Second is the Oregon State University Center for the Outdoor Recreation Economy, or CORE, our education partner who helped bring this toolkit to life, especially Danny Powers, their Associate Director of Learning Design. Third is the VF Foundation, who've supported our work throughout and generously stepped in to fund a rural grant in 2023 as well. And finally, I want to thank the more than 80 practitioners around the country interviewed for this research, along with the community leaders who I've been fortunate to read about in preparing for this resource. I'm very pleased to introduce Kate Porsche, Executive Director of OSU CORE, to share a little bit about what they do. Kate, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much, Chris. And hello, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. I just wanted to briefly say first a note of gratitude to ORR for continuing to be a leader in the space of the outdoor recreation economy, and for allowing Oregon State to be a part of assisting with the design of the original and then this exciting update of the Rural Development Toolkit. I'm Kate, and I serve as the interim director of OSU's Center for the Outdoor Recreation Economy, and we're one of many of the educational provider partners in the national space, and we're focused on creating educational programs and academic pathways that are going to help to solve the workforce challenges of the outdoor recreation economy. We, like some of the other partners on the call, we offer programs that are both non-credit and for credit. We're working on some micro-credentials and even degree programs. Currently, we have online an Elevate Outdoors DEI training for frontline teammates in outdoor rec space. We have partnered with the ski industry to create a ski lift maintenance technician and a lift operations course, which we've launched nationally and is all mobile friendly and available online. And also our Foundations of the Outdoor Recreation Economy, which is sort of an entry-level program. Really, we're here to work on creating stackable pathways, educational pathways for folks in this space, and really listening to our industry leader partners and understanding what they need and how we can help be a part of the solution. So with that, I want to pass it back to Chris and say thank you so much. And we're just so excited about the new launch of this Rural Development Toolkit. Thanks.
Thank you, Kate, and thank you so much to your whole team for the work you did on this toolkit, as well as for all the work you do to support the outdoor recreation economy. So let's dive into this release. First of all, who is in the room? I sent a brief survey on Monday to registrants for this call and received around 400 responses and wanted to share our findings. So first, here are the hundreds of communities represented on today's call. Good representation coast to coast. And here are your primary interests, as well as the sector or type of organization you represent. Of course, funding recreation infrastructure was a popular answer, along with general education and understanding, housing affordability, stewardship and recreation impacts, marketing and branding, case studies from communities, and data and research. And in terms of sectors and organizations, good representation across the board, particularly from economic development research groups, local, state, and federal government, and recreation advocacy and access. And lastly, your familiarity with the topic. I thought this was kind of a great bell curve, and I think the content today will be suitable no matter where you are on this spectrum. So what are the goals of this toolkit? First, we want to define the process. Whether you're an expert or this is your first time considering the role of outdoor recreation in economic development, we want to clearly spell out what this looks like in action, why communities take this approach, and the best practices they observe. Second is to plan proactively. We know from following these communities that increasing desirability comes with its challenges as well. We want to help leaders get ahead of challenges with lessons from others to help build economies that benefit everyone. And third, we just want to spotlight great work. We hope that as you are reading, you see the communities and leaders featured within and connect with them firsthand. It really does take a village to get these plans off the ground, and the people featured possess a wealth of knowledge. So, as registrants, you get advanced access to the toolkit, and I'm very pleased to share a link into the chat now. As questions arise, feel free to use the Q&A setting at the bottom of your screen. I am setting up a new screen share. I'm now sharing my web browser, so we're looking at the same thing. So you'll first see at the top of this page a link to a new rural development mapping project. One of our biggest goals out of this work is that federal and state agencies understand just how much demand is out there for increased funding and technical assistance. There's actually a great opportunity in Congress right now called the Rural Outdoor Investment Act, which would promote economic growth in rural communities by investing in outdoor recreation infrastructure, planning, and business development. I know staff from the Senate EPW committee are on the call, and we greatly appreciate your consideration of this bill. So you should feel free to fill out this short survey even during this call to indicate the support that you need, and we'll utilize the results in our future efforts with public and private partners. So you'll see the new toolkit embedded in the screen, including an option to view full screen, which I'll go to now. So this toolkit is organized around 12 best practices, along with quotes, advice, and case studies from communities around the country. Because I want to highlight the guests on our call, I won't be reviewing the best practices comprehensively, but I encourage you to take the time to work through them on your own. So you're probably wondering what's new in this edition, and on the introduction page, you'll see a list of the new resources and sections in this toolkit, including a community assessment tool, a library of outdoor rec economic development stories in every state in the country, one-pagers on economic development and public health, new lists of federal grants and technical assistance, economic impact statistics, modules on economic development, advice on working with agencies and USDA rural development, upholding tribal leadership and legacies, modules on funding, data, using regional development organizations, housing, recreation infrastructure toolkits, climate resilience, accessibility, managing user conflict, and so much more. The first sections of this toolkit provide background, both on trends in rural America as well as on the outdoor recreation economy. We know, of course, that Americans have flocked to the outdoors and outdoor communities in record numbers in recent years, and that communities are taking advantage of these behavioral shifts as part of their economic mixes. We also know that rural communities are being challenged in new ways as well, by the impacts of the pandemic, by extreme weather events, by affordability and housing issues, among others. This section outlines some of what they're facing and also why outdoor recreation is well timed for the new era that we live in. From a recent report from the Brookings Institute, traditional economic development tools may be ineffective compared to investments in quality of life in place. Our research on smaller communities has found that community amenities such as recreation opportunities, cultural activities, and excellent services are likely bigger contributors to healthy local economies than traditional business-friendly measures. Many people have heard the term outdoor recreation economy, but what does that mean? This section outlines the benefits that come from outdoor recreation access, examples of outdoor recreation infrastructure, as well as recent data from the US Bureau of Economic Analysis, which shows that outdoor recreation generated $1.1 trillion in 2022, along with 5 million jobs, growing 2.5 times faster than the United States as a whole. I also want to highlight recent data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics showcased in the Daily Yonder, which show that rural counties, where the recreation industry is a big part of the local economy, are more likely than other types of rural counties to have regained the jobs they lost during the pandemic. You'll also see a link to a new resource called Happening in My State. This is a collection of nearly 3 years of news coverage related to outdoor recreation economy development in every state across the country. My recommendation is to go to your state and see who is leading efforts in local communities and then connect with them. So if I'm from Colorado, for example, I go to the Colorado page and I'd learn about this whitewater park in Buena Vista. I'd probably want to learn more from Special Projects Manager Earl Richmond about his work and experience. Some on this call are very familiar with the ecosystem of economic development and some are not. This resource spotlights the major players in community development, as well as best practices to connect with each group. So say I'm approaching town councilors and county commissioners. I'd learn a little bit about who they are, as well as special advice from those interviewed for this toolkit about how to resonate with them most effectively. So these 12 best practices are really the meat of the toolkit. No matter the context, some version of these best practices came up in every interview. Like I said, I won't have time to go through all of them in detail, but please send me a note if you're interested in a longer walkthrough of this resource for your community or team. Identify and empower local champions. Economic development through outdoor recreation doesn't come from the top down. It comes from energetic local champions who are motivated to get behind the work. This section features stories of community leaders from around the country who are building visions and talks about how they do it, including a feature on Lilly from Beckley, West Virginia, one of today's presenters. To summarize this section, community leaders need to have earned the trust of a wide diversity of community members, need to have an inclusive vision of many interests. They may need financial support to reach their potential. And they also need to have fun, as exemplified by this feature on the Granite Backcountry Alliance, which works to promote backcountry skiing in New Hampshire and Western Maine. Make outdoor recreation a must-have. This section outlines the thesis statement for rural economic development through outdoor recreation and provides data and research to support. And this is what it's really all about. Investments in outdoor recreation infrastructure improve quality of life, a core driver for state and local economic competitiveness in talent recruitment and retention, as well as visitor attraction. Access to outdoor recreation improves mental and physical health outcomes, along with associated cost savings, and connects communities to one another in the natural world. And this example from the tech sector in Utah captures that really well. The University of Utah surveyed tech workers who were returning to the state for their careers, and they asked them, why are you returning to Utah to do your work in technology over any other state? The number one answer from 85% of those surveyed was access to the outdoors. So I think this is a great example of investments in outdoor recreation having positive spillover effects across multiple sectors. The last thing I'd like to highlight from the first section of the toolkit is the importance of collaboratives. For this work to take off, a community really needs a focused and reliable array of stakeholders around the same table, in person if possible, who represent the community's best interests and can build buy-in to the vision. So this section showcases examples of who might join these collaboratives, different formats, and examples from around the country. It also includes advice for working with public sector partners. And I thought this example from Homero Torres at the US Forest Service was excellent. First, disclose what you want to achieve and why. Second, put in sweat equity. And third, make your proposal reasonable. This section also includes a breakdown of great programs and opportunities at USDA Rural Development, which basically acts as a big loan bank and grantor for communities. I want to briefly highlight a few more sections before turning it over to our panelists. First, on the importance of generating public support. The take-home message here is that a community plan is only as good as the diversity of participants who created it. The most successful communities are conscious of making outreach in every corner along lines of race and ethnicity, disability, tribal status, socioeconomic status, political affiliation, and other characteristics to understand priorities and needs, and are conscious of building a vision that includes everyone. Old Fort, North Carolina is a great example of this in action, and we'll hear from Stephanie Swepson-Twitty later on in today's webinar. Skipping ahead a little bit to identifying funding partners, knowing that funding was such a priority for all of you on this call. Having the right people at the table during initial planning efforts tends to increase enthusiasm from funders and ensure that all channels for funding and technical assistance are explored. So in this section, we have a new module on Funding 101, which breaks down the art and the science of funding recreation and conservation plans. We have examples of funding sources. We have advice on using data effectively to make the case. And we also have funding examples from real communities. As I mentioned earlier, we also know more now about some of the challenges recreation communities across the country have faced in light of their unbelievable popularity in recent years. This includes housing and affordability, stewardship, adaptability to extreme weather and climate change, human wildlife impacts, and others. Some of these challenges are captured in this section on planning for destination management and value capture, or in other words, looking strategically at all the components of a destination to consider how all stakeholders can work collaboratively to ensure its long-term health and sustainability. Amid many examples of effective work from communities around the country, we also have a new module called Housing 101, which outlines dozens of strategies that local communities have employed to secure stable housing for the outdoor recreation workforce. To wrap up, one of my favorite parts of this new toolkit is the final section called Putting It All Together. This includes complete recreation economy action plans from real communities across the country, sourced from the Recreation Economy for Rural Communities program, which is a partnership between the Environmental Protection Agency, the U.S. Forest Service, Northern Border Regional Commission, and Appalachian Regional Commission, as well as from the University of Colorado Masters of the Environment program. So my advice to you as you read these plans is to use them as inspiration. Who is at the table, how they're collecting information, and what are their goals and measurements for success. I think reading these plans will tell you a lot about how to embark on this work in your own community. Like I said, there's tons in this toolkit, and I wish I had time to cover all of it today. But more importantly, we have a great panel of visiting experts who do this work on the ground. I'd like to welcome them into our call today. We're very fortunate to be joined by Enos, founder and CEO of the Pennsylvania Wild Center for Entrepreneurship, Stephanie Swepson-Twitty, president and CEO of the Eagle Market Streets Development Corporation in Old Fort, North Carolina, Corey Lilly, manager of outdoor community development, the West Virginia University Outdoor Recreation Economic Development Collaborative in Beckley, West Virginia, and Jesse Powers, executive director of the Outdoor Recreation Council of Appalachia, Athens County, Ohio. If I had to imagine an A-team of experts who do rural economic development through outdoor recreation, this would be the group, and I'm so excited they're here today. So I thought we'd start with a quick kind of rapid fire question. I'd love for each of you to introduce yourself, describe your professional role, tell us a bit about your community and region, and how outdoor recreation fits into your work. So Todd, why don't you kick us off?
Sure. Thanks, Chris. Hi, everybody. I'm Enos. I'm the founder and CEO of the Pennsylvania Wild Center for Entrepreneurship. We are the lead nonprofit for a regional strategy to grow the outdoor recreation and tourism sectors in a highly rural, as you can see behind me, 13-county region known as the Pennsylvania Wilds. The PA Wilds is about the size of Massachusetts. We're home to more public land than Yellowstone. And like a lot of rural areas, our region has seen decades of economic distress and population decline. And so the PA Wilds was really launched as a revitalization strategy 20 years ago. Today, we have dozens of public and private sector partners that are helping to grow this sector in a very intentional way in our region to help diversify local economies, inspire stewardship, improve quality of life, attract investment, and retain population. We are super excited for the toolkit and really appreciate being part of the conversation today.
Thanks very much, Todd. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us, Chris. I'm Stephanie Swepson-Twitty, president and CEO for Eagle Market Streets Development Corporation. I'm a native of Old Fort, North Carolina, a small rural town nestled in the foothills of Western North Carolina. Population of about 811. We're working currently to stand up a couple of projects here that you hear more about as we talk today in today's panel discussion. I'm most excited to be here today, though thinking about how outdoor recreation and activity is a new exposure particularly for community of color. Thank you again for having us.
Thank you, Stephanie. Corey.
Thank you so much, Chris. Congratulations on this work. It's fantastic. My name is Corey Lilly. I'm the manager of outdoor community development for West Virginia University Smith Outdoor Economic Development Collaborative, where we work in the outdoor economy across West Virginia. I currently chair the Beckley Outdoors Economic Action Plan. I'm the former founding director of the Office of Outdoor Economic Development for my hometown, city of Beckley, West Virginia, one of the country's first offices of outdoor rec on a municipal level in the United States, launched by Mayor Rob Rappold. Historically, we are a coal town known as the smokeless coal capital. It shaped our economy for over a century and became intertwined with our identity. However, the economy began to decline in the end of the 19th century, and the city of Beckley's population is 16.4 thousand. From 2020 to 2024, the population decreased by 4.2%. Now we have turned to outdoor recreation to tackle the population decline. Our senators led a bipartisan effort to designate the New River Gorge as a national park, to which the city of Beckley sits adjacent. With the outdoor economy winds at our back because of national park designation and a massive swath of outdoor recreation, of untapped outdoor recreation around the city, waiting to be activated, we launched the Beckley Outdoors Initiative to ignite the outdoor economy to attract and retain young adults. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Thank you, Corey. And Jesse.
Hi, honored to be here with you all. Really excited about the toolkit. It's incredible. I'm Jessie Powers, Executive Director of the Outdoor Recreation Council of Appalachia, or ORCA. The bulk of our work takes place in Athens County, Ohio. We're a rural county with a population of about 62,000. The county seats the city of Athens, which is home to Ohio University that has about 23,000 students. We work in Appalachian, Ohio, and primarily Southeast and Southern Ohio for the broader region. And this region has a long history of extraction. Coal mining here began around 1800, and the decline of that industry has left a hole in the regional economy that's yet to be filled. Our region is by far the poorest in the state. However, it's by far the most beautiful and outdoor recreation rich part of Ohio. ORCA is a council of governments, so we were created to utilize outdoor recreation opportunities to deliver economic, social, health, and environmental benefits to the region, and we use it to sustainably diversify our region's economy. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jesse. And I'll just remind attendees that if you have questions for me or for these panelists, feel free to use the Q&A function at the bottom of the Zoom screen. There have already been some great questions coming in, and I'm sure many more will come through. So Corey, I wanted to start with you. The first best practice in this toolkit is to identify and empower local champions. You are a local champion for Beckley, West Virginia. I was very excited to learn from you about your work. From your experience, what advice do you have for someone looking to build support behind an economic development vision?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. Identifying and empowering multiple local champions in the same community is a key best practice for building support behind an outdoor economic vision. First and foremost, understand the community dynamics. Take the time to listen and learn about the local culture, values, and unique strengths and challenges that the community faces. This knowledge will be crucial in identifying individuals who are respected and influential within the community. These are potential local champions and who will create the dream team. These individuals could be community leaders, business owners, elected officials, educators, anyone with a strong connection to the community. In my case with Beckley Outdoors, the local champions were the mayor, the Chamber of Commerce, city council members, Parks and Rec department, well-known figures across the community, and many, many others. And as a lifelong local and former professional athlete, adventure athlete, I took on the role of creating the Office of Outdoor Economic Development for the city of Beckley, earning me the title of local champion. However, the real heroes are the mayor, city council, and the directors of organizations across the city who supported and believed in the vision. It's a two-way street of empowerment, is how I see it. Once you've identified potential champions, the next step is to really engage them authentically, make engagements regarding the outdoor economy exciting and fun and professional, but make sure it's fun. That's really important. While working on the Beckley Outdoors project, I began by building genuine relationships and communicating the Beckley Outdoors vision in a way that resonates with their values and the community's needs. I tailored the message to highlight how the vision aligns with the betterment of the community and how their involvement and leadership can make a significant positive impact and will be one of the most fun, rewarding endeavors in their work life. So what happened in the case of Beckley was that when something regarding Beckley Outdoors came across their desk, it generated a sense of excitement and made it really fun to get involved with the work and to do great work. For me, a key element of empowering local champions was providing data, information, resources like what you would find in this toolkit for them to understand the opportunity that sat right before us that no one else had before. We had just got a national park designation, New River Gorge, one of the nation's newest national parks. Additionally, I illuminated the immediate untapped outdoor recreation resources surrounding the city that had never been considered and were also not in the national park. I shared with them studies that backed the vision, including research showing that Beckley area has 820 miles of navigable streams, over 3,200 established rock climbing routes, and countless other cliffs that have yet to be developed within minutes of the city. I showed them unknown waterfalls that could have easy access for viewing and shared ideas of abundant forested lands and dilapidated buildings surrounding our downtown that could offer a mountain biking destination. We reviewed economic impact studies of outdoor recreation and trends in the city. So by equipping them with data and showing them that being in the West Virginia mountains is a part of our story, from using the mountains, from logging and coal mining to hunting and fishing, boating, hiking, and biking. Leaders from across the city quickly became advocates because they could see themselves and the community's story within it. So once a few local champions found that synergy, like within city council, the mayor, myself, others, we fostered an environment where we valued different perspectives and celebrated a collective effort, and a collaborative approach strengthens the support base and diverse skills and resources to the table. So in summary, building the support behind an economic development vision involves identifying and empowering those local champions who can passionately advocate for the cause.
And I think one of the things you do so well, Corey, is connect people to the resource firsthand, take it out of the office or the boardroom and actually get on the trail or the river or the climbing wall. That makes such a difference in terms of illustrating for those champions or partners of champions what the potential is.
Absolutely. There's so much camaraderie built with our field visits, like getting people out of the stuffy office and then like out of the council chambers and getting outdoors, really built that camaraderie and excitement once they saw it on the ground.
Excellent. So Stephanie, I want to turn to you and your work in Old Fort, North Carolina. One of the things that really stood out to me in both the G5 and Catawba Vale collaboratives is your strength in building a shared community vision that gets buy-in from several different groups. How did you achieve that?
Well, thank you for that question, Chris. And generally, we built our collaborative because the work was already, the swell was already there. A group in our area, the West Marion Community, Inc., was already working toward building a strong leadership initiative in the area. They had put together these forums around the area, West Marion Forum, Old Fort Forum, and East Marion Forum. And during these forums, the G5 was asked to come and do a presentation. And at this presentation, they talked about a trail initiative that the camp was pursuing. And the People on the Move, who is a grassroots organization inside one of these forums, was very intrigued by the camp and by G5's work with developing trails. And with that conversation and with that opportunity, from there, this whole again, I use the term groundswell happened. G5 had been moving this work with the equestrians, with the trail developers, with the maintenance, folk who do trail maintenance, long before they came to a forum and People on the Move. But it was that leadership from the People on the Move who really drove this, Chris. So, you know, as I listened to Corey, I heard that resounding, start with your community first. Start with asking them what could be possible, what could be different, what would they like to see in their community, and get their buy-in. And that, you know, that I think is the secret sauce, or what made this a success, is we asked them to believe first. And indeed, they've been leading this initiative for us. So yeah.
I think that is one of the most important things, particularly for local champions who may have a vision in their head about things, how things ought to develop, to relinquish control of that vision and hear from folks from diverse parts of the community about their values, their priorities, their needs, and then build the vision around that. That's such a great illustration, Stephanie. Thank you. So Todd, one of the best practices in this toolkit is around having a backbone organization to guide and steward the vision. Why is that so important? And what does the PA Wild Center do as a backbone organization for the region?
Sure. I would say three things really strike me on the why. Number one is, helping to grow a outdoor rec sector for a region is generational work, and it involves a lot of different kinds of partners and organizations, as the two stories prior to mine really illustrated. And so that stakeholder network, it's like a living thing. It's constantly evolving. There's changes in leadership, there's changes in capital and capacity at your different partners. There's people that come into the fold and leave the fold and then come back in again. To maintain something that is that wide and deep and organic over decades, you really need a backbone organization to help orient new members as they come in, new organizations to help inspire them about the work, give them the backstory about the work, and really help them understand how strategically they can play to their strengths in this, sort of collective work that we're all doing. So that's number one. Number two, I would say, and these aren't in any particular order. Number two, I would say is trying to implement outdoor recreation as an economic and community development strategy over time. There is likely to be significant digital, physical, intellectual sort of property and infrastructure and things that the collective creates that are going to need to be managed for long-term success. So you might be able to bootstrap it in the beginning, and that was certainly our experience in the wilds. But eventually, to do it right, to have the proper stewardship around it, you're definitely going to need a permanent sort of organizational home for it and staff to manage it, right? So that's another reason to build that toward that backbone organization. And third, I would say, unlike many other sectors, outdoor recreation, and especially sort of the tourism part of outdoor recreation, it's uniquely tied to place, to community culture, to rural quality of life. And those are things you do not want to mess up, right? So a backbone organization can really help to steward the vision that the community has come up with for itself, its evolutions over time, what have you. There's always new challenges with this sort of work. And so you need an organization, I think, that can help to be that steward of the vision over time, so you don't screw those things up, and you can have new community conversations about them as they arise, challenges or opportunities or things. Our experience in the PA Wilds, I would say, is maybe a helpful illustration of sort of how this can evolve over time. Our work has a lot of moving parts. It obviously covers a very big region, involves a lot of partners, and it has a lot of components. Like we have a regional marketing piece, we have a small business development piece, we have regional planning, we have stewardship, infrastructure, like all these pieces, marketing, branding. In the beginning, all these pieces were, we sort of did it the rural bootstrappy way, right? Like we all came together and everybody took a piece and everybody was sort of working on it. And so we had all these moving parts, and they would bounce around every couple of years inside different organizations based on anyone's capacity at the time, funding constraints, leadership at certain places, whatever the reason was. And so as the work started to succeed and get more momentum, it became clear that we're going to tie ourselves in a pretzel on the back end. We're going to sort of be crushed by our own success if we don't get this organized in a better way. And so it was really like all the partners coming together over a series of years through facilitated discussions to say, how do we organize this for long-term sustainability? And that's when we really sort of, honed in on the backbone sort of organization concept and needing to get things under one place. And so I'll end with, since we did that was like 2015 to 2017 was really the big reorganization that we did. Since we've done that, the results have really been phenomenal in terms of building impact and support. So we've widened and deepened our partnership networks in really significant ways. We've vastly diversified our funding streams and types of funding and the amounts of funding that we're able to attract, because we now have, sort of a pathway for investment for a variety of investors that makes sense. And isn't some sort of like Rube Goldberg machine. You pull back the curtain and people are like, oh my gosh, this is what's holding it up. So it's much more straightforward, and it just allows the things to happen, the investment to happen. Increase staff capacity for the work, once it's all organized sort of in a backbone organization, we've been able to increase that staff capacity. We've been able to more efficiently manage programs and to realize greater synergies between them because they're housed in one place where staff can get around them and bring that sort of strategic capacity to them in coordination with our partners and more robust funding. And I would say that the the return on investment is pretty much you can see it in every result that we track for the work. Whether that's the number of entrepreneurs participating in our ecosystem, to the visitor spending and visitation to the region, to users on pawells.com, or the long-term sustainability of the work, partners involved in it, whatever metric we look at, it was a really good choice by the partners in the region to sort of reorganize in that way and really designate a backbone organization. So it's worth the investment. It can be a little painful, but the growth and stuff, but it's definitely worth the investment.
One thing that didn't come up in that answer, but I will take the moment to spotlight, is you, Ta, just being committed for what feels like a decade plus to this vision and pulling all those people together. And I highlight that to show that you're doing such a good job, but also this is hard work. It's not something that happens overnight. It takes tons of relationships, tons of cups of coffee, tons of visioning to really build out what the Wilds has been so successful with nowadays. But I think your answer about the backbone components of the Wild Center for Entrepreneurship are so helpful.
Thank you.
Jesse, I want to turn to you. Participants in my research noted the strength of a regional approach in building an economic development vision, as well as being more attractive to potential funders. How is a regional partnership integral to ORCA's success?
Thanks. Yeah, we were really created from a partnership and by partnership, I guess. So planning around the development of the Bailey's Trail System here in Athens County, that's an 88-mile mountain bike optimized trail system on over 9,000 acres of Wayne National Forest with adjacent to 3 rural communities, was really a partnership between the Forest Service and local government. That in and of itself created how do we actually do this? So local government came together and we created that council. So it's a legal construct that allows multiple jurisdictions to work together for a mutual benefit. And that benefit that they all identified was outdoor recreation and its ability to solve seemingly intractable problems in our region. So we were born of that partnership, and without it, our accomplishments wouldn't be possible. So to date, in about 3 years, we've built 58 of those planned 88 miles and secured more than $10.6 million in infrastructure and programmatic investments. It's also integral because rural Appalachian Ohio's opportunity is a regional one. So we're talking about more than 15 state parks, multiple nature preserves, state forests, the only national forest in Ohio, rivers, hills, caves, waterfalls, boulders, authentic arts and culture like the Hopewell Ceremonial Earthworks UNESCO World Heritage Site. There's enough here to see and do that we realize that the opportunity is so much larger than any one of those specific assets. So ORCA and many others see this regional opportunity, but without the partnership that enables us to collaboratively plan and strategically develop, we won't realize the full potential. That means we're going to be failing to provide all the benefits, quality of life benefits that residents here need. Partnerships are so integral to all of our work, and it's really thanks to work of founder and director Enos at the Pennsylvania Wilds that through a planned partnership between the 2 organizations, last year ORCA expanded our regional partnership in Ohio to 17 Ohio counties. From out of Ohio's 88 counties, ORCA's 17 contain all 3 of the Ohio's persistent poverty counties. So those are communities that have more than 20% of their population trapped in poverty for more than 30 years. So really we were created by partnership, and in order for us to succeed and meet the opportunity at hand, a regional partnership is paramount importance. And it's the critical element that's going to enable us to do this work and fulfill those missions.
Thanks, Jesse. And one thing about your work that has also stood out to me is the level of buy-in from the state that you've been able to achieve by proving success. Governor Mike DeWine invested millions of dollars more in the vision. And second is the buy-in that you've been able to achieve from healthcare providers. We're seeing this link between public health and outdoor recreation. I think that's really exemplary for all of us to follow, and just so impressed with the work you've done in Athens County. Some great questions have been coming into the chat, and there are two I want to highlight, and maybe my panelists can determine which they want to tag on first. One is the need for sustainable funding, particularly to ensure that infrastructure can keep up with visitor demand. In rural areas, funding for infrastructure often comes through a small property tax base. In some communities, dollars from tourism can only go to promote more tourism. If any of you successfully changed this funding model or learned about other funding models to ensure a sustainable revenue source for local infrastructure and services divide from the visitor economy? That is one question. I'll let you ponder on that. The second is from Staj Olson in Travel Oregon, who notes that there are many local champions for outdoor rec, and the data and vision is there, but there's oftentimes so many competing priorities, whether it be basic essential infrastructure like water treatment centers, schools, roads, wildfire management. Outdoor rec priorities can sometimes fall to the bottom. How do you recommend building and sustaining capacity for this work in small rural communities? Two great questions, and I wonder if the folks in this panel have insights on either.
I could take that second question.
Go, Corey.
Yeah, so in our experience, we effectively used outdoor recreation to align various organizations' goals into a unified plan, which we branded as the Beckley Outdoors Economic Action Plan. When we started, we had quite a few stakeholders who initially needed help discovering how outdoor recreation could help them achieve their goals. So during the coalition building phase, we facilitated meetings with different organizations to help them find how outdoor recreation can help them in their individual missions. So organizations from across the city, to name a few, such as like Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Authority, work on downtown redevelopment and business attraction, et cetera, while other organizations like a National Park Service or land trusts work in like environmental conservation. So the conservation and development are two vastly different trains of thought. So despite different pursuits, we effectively aligned outdoor recreation with our partnering organizations' goals into a unified vision in the Beckley Outdoors Plan. So like an example of that, a planned project that demonstrates this collaborative synergy. The city's major college, WU Tech, is interested in outdoor recreation to help attract and retain students and faculty on campus. Meanwhile, Chamber of Commerce saw how outdoor recreation could help vibrant downtown district. The National Park Service was experiencing overcrowding in certain areas, and the park wanted to disperse traffic volume. So in the plan, we identified a series of projects to address the overcrowding in the park by introducing a project to alleviate the crowding while at the same time helping to create an attractive campus lifestyle and making a walkable downtown district and downtown vibrancy. So what resulted is projects that creates a trailhead as a premier mountain biking park right out of the downtown square that redesigned the downtown into a walkable district. So in our case, we were able to check multiple organizations' boxes through outdoor recreation by coming up with creative projects to do that.
That's great, Corey. Thanks for that example. Others want to jump in.
Yeah, Chris, I would only add to Corey's answer is, in the wilds, I would say the state was a big convener in the beginning of the work 20 years ago. They really had this vision about, these assets, and they manage a lot of the public land. DCNR does here in PA. And so that, being able to really have that vision of where outdoor recreation was headed even 20 years ago. And that this was a real opportunity for a distressed region to leverage these things in a greater way for economic development in communities. And so I think, it doesn't always have to be a state, but I think it does, if you're trying to get, there's power in numbers. And so the question is, how do you get everybody to the table? How do you elevate it as a strategy versus just a one-off project, which is the way I think a lot of this is viewed sometimes, like, well, that's just a isolated sort of trail project. And of course, it doesn't fit the priority level of this or this. So it's really about like, what is the strategy? And so sometimes it helps, like, who are your big partners? Sometimes it's a university, sometimes it's a state, sometimes it's who can be one of your convening partners, right? To get everybody to the table. And then it really helps, at least in the case in the wilds in the beginning, you know, there were sort of incentives on the table, right? Because you're trying to get a lot of people that maybe haven't worked together before. It's a new concept. I mean, we're a region that's had, you know, a history. We have a resource extraction economy, right? So, and a lot of manufacturing and things like that. And so tourism, outdoor rec, these were new ideas in a lot of our communities. To, you know, this idea like who would want to come here, you know, and we've seen our young people leave for decades. So, you know, who can be your convener, help you be a convener. I would also say that the messenger really matters. Like, put some thought into who your messengers are, right? You need somebody that locals will trust. And it goes back to some of the things that Stephanie and Corey were saying about, you know, listening first so that you can identify those people and who they are, and have, you know, how can you get them on your side to be able to help carry some of the messages. So finding those conveners, incentives, and then working on, and then it goes back to shared goals, right? Like, once you've got everybody at the table, what do you all want to accomplish together? And then every one-off project is sort of elevated because they can see how it fits to this larger strategy, right? And I don't remember the first question, Chris. You might have to repeat it.
That was great, Todd. Jesse, do you want to jump in?
I think for us too, one of the arguments that we make is how these investments in outdoor recreation can be long-term catalysts, right? So you're going to be more successful. Our primary trailhead is in a community of 1,000 people. We utilize their park, which is a former coal mine. It's 100 acres in size. The park had no legal access, no ADA parking, no restroom, no updated equipment. By utilizing it as our primary trailhead for the Bailey's Trail System, which is going to be the largest contiguous mountain bike trail system east of the Mississippi River, we're able to secure investments, and that community of 1,000 becomes far more competitive, because now many people that come to Ohio are going to be visiting it, and that matters to the state and to the larger economic picture of what we're trying to do here. I do remember the first question about how do we solve the funding problem? Probably because it's on my mind all the time. And there is really no easy answer, I think. But Orca, we also operate a nonprofit. So and that nonprofit exists to really support our work. It allows us the flexibility to kind of capture revenue streams that are unique to publicly owned trail systems. So we can't charge admission. Only ski resorts get that privilege on federal land. I'm hoping for snow. I'm going to take some good pictures. But you know, in the short term, we really use our nonprofit to kind of set up these revenue streams where we have volunteer membership. You can make a charitable donation. That's a tax write-off. We sell merch that features local artists. So we elevate, you know, the visitor experience. We operate the only mountain bike rental in a 100-mile radius right next to our trail system. So we continue to move towards that solution. We're not necessarily making a profit on our nonprofit yet, but that is the plan, that we can then reinvest those revenue streams back into operations and maintenance.
Yeah, so on the funding question, I would tag Jesse and say that looking at a hybrid or blended model, I would champion that as a mechanism. Use your not-for-profit to go after those that philanthropic and foundational support that can come to the not-for-profit, as well as the federal dollars that often are available. But also look at the ability that not-for-profits have to be able to take earned or fee-for-service dollars into their mix as well. On the question of partnerships, I 100% ditto everything that was said. Our town, again, is such a small town that we still have a board of aldermen, keyword men, and so that, you know, they knew and still know that they have a challenge with infrastructure. and were not really did not understand where to go look for the resources that they needed to be able to bring water and sewer in for something as big as outdoor rec and activity. But once we connected them to the Council of Government, and they knew that they weren't going to have to try to write the grants, and they were going to have to manage them and those types of things, we really began to build a relationship that opened them up, and we've really started to be able to bring more resources into the town to help us be able to go after greater support for infrastructure that will ultimately help us all be able to take advantage of the resources that are out there that for infrastructure and for improvement, both in the improvement of the town, as well as the economy, that will ultimately improve the economy. So, it's about, I love what Todd said about who's taking the message, because we were real strategic about my partner, Jason. I don't know if he's listening out there today, but he and I knew that it wouldn't be us because they were like, not them too. And but we also knew that any outsiders that were around the table probably weren't likely, but they were really listening to the Council of Government. And so we used the Council of Government to go in there and say, hey, we're here to help you. Let us help you. And that really opened the door to us then being able to come to the table and say, we really want to be part of this help as well. So, yeah.
Thank you, Stephanie, and for all of you for going deep on that. Any final words before we wrap up? So I wanted to first say that the Q&A box really popped off in the last 20 minutes, and I took down every question that was asked, and we'll send them to these panelists. I will try to answer some of them myself so that we get you that content after this webinar. And thank you for being so thoughtful in your questions. I want to start by, again, thanking our panelists today, Todd, Corey, Stephanie, and Jesse. Having you to illustrate the impact of outdoor rec on the ground has been fantastic. And as I told you before this call, having good work on the ground to point to makes such a big difference. I want to thank all of you for joining as well. I'm just going to share my screen one last time. What can you do next? You can share your needs in our toolkit mapping project. You can reach out to connect with the leaders and communities featured in the toolkit and on this call. You can also send me a note. I'm sure I missed some things in this toolkit, or there's more you want to talk about. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to talk about the potential to do a presentation for your community or other group of stakeholders. It's been a pleasure to share this research and resource with you all. Thank you so much for being here. And I hope everyone has a terrific day. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Chris.
Bye.
Bye.